everyone, and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and help make the veteran community a better place. I hope you'll stay tuned to hear how the new generation is continuing their service. Also, Vet Chats is now available on Reese Across America Radio. We will be played Mondays at 9 and Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. They have a ton of great veteran content that I know you'll appreciate, so be sure to check them out. You can find them at their website, iHeartRadio, and the Odyssey app. So hello everyone, I hope everyone had a great weekend. It feels like we're finally in summer. I got my first sunburn, we had our first beach day. It was a great time. All right, so tonight we have a great guest, JP. I actually found him on TikTok, which I have recently. I've been off TikTok for a month. It's just too much for me. But he was one of the great things that came out of it, and I see he just joined. So JP is a Marine Corps veteran, and we're going to talk about his story tonight and how he is now a veteran coach. So we'll get into all that tonight. Let me get him on. Should be on. Here we go. Hey, JP, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good. How was your weekend?
Busy, but that's exactly how I like it, actually. So I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. So are you one of those people that gets more done on the weekend than during the week, or what?
Yeah, I have a hard time differentiating the two. So sometimes my week, I don't even realize if it's Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday. Everything kind of just flows through. So I do try and get as much done as I can every single day.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's a great mindset to have. I mean, I feel like I used to be stuck in that mode where I'm like, it's the weekend, I'm not doing anything. Oh, shoot. Hang on, you just got kicked off. I'll just keep talking. There, I don't know what happened.
Not sure. Here I am.
Oh, but anyhow, I was saying I used to be the type of person that was like, it's Saturday, I'm not doing anything. Even if I had the motivation to do it or the time or, the energy, I was just like, no, it's Saturday, I'm not going to do that. And, that kind of worked against me because it's like, why not do it when you feel like doing it? I mean, you shouldn't just not do it because of the day of the week. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something that I talk to a lot about my clients. One of the things that we try and focus on is making sure that, they wake up with intention. And I had a client who kept oversleeping on the weekends, and that's her prime time, right? So she would end up getting, not a lot done throughout the weekend. And then on Wednesday, everything was piling up, and then she was able to get more done during the weekend, and the rest of her week just goes that much better.
Yeah, and you're probably more rested, if you're playing catch up on the weekend. Actually, that just hit home for me because I was looking at my journal, and I have like a monthly habits, and one of them is waking up early, and I have not crossed off one for June yet, and that's so unlike me. So yeah, I think this is a good reminder. I need to pick up that slack. But anyhow, so let's get into a little of your background. And you joined the Marine Corps out of the Chicago area, right? Yeah. And why did you decide to join?
So I don't remember much of the first 18 years of my life. And part of that is because it was very, very just not memorable. So for the first 15 years of my life growing up, I didn't really have a lot of direction. I got in a lot of trouble. Bless my mom and dad. They tried to make the best of it, moved us around to different neighborhoods, nicer houses, tried to get me out of trouble, right? But I kept getting in trouble, kept hanging out with the wrong people, really had no sense of direction. I didn't belong to any clubs, no communities, nothing like that. And I just kept getting in trouble. And then finally, my senior year of high school, one of my teachers that I actually took one of his classes, my criminal justice classes, he actually kind of took an interest in trying to guide me. And, because of him, I ended up joining the Marine Corps, and he actually came out to see me graduate and everything. His name is Andy Ramirez. And, thanks to him, I actually decided what it was that I wanted to do after high school.
Are you still in touch with him today?
Yeah, definitely. I try to see him once a year. He did recently retire and he moved out of state, but I still keep in touch with him, and yeah, he's doing great.
That's incredible. And it just goes to show that just one person can make such a huge difference, just by caring and showing up for you. That's awesome. And so you ended up joining. What was your did you have a job field you had in mind, or what did you want to do as a Marine?
Yeah, so I grew up not really knowing much about the military, and when I did learn about the military, I watched this movie Jarhead, and after that, all I wanted to do was I wanted to become a scout sniper. And it's not like that movie glorifies it or nothing like that. It actually doesn't. But it seemed like something that I really wanted to do and enjoy. And I, decided that I wanted to become a scout sniper. And when I went out to the Marine Corps, you have to be infantry first. And it's actually sad to talk about because they recently, the Marine Corps, very misguidedly, in my opinion, just got rid of the scout sniper MOS in this past year. So it's very unfortunate, very sad. I think hopefully they come back, but right now there's no more scout sniper basic schools in the Marine Corps.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow, so that is a thing of the past now, and they just it's kind of routine phasing out, or just the changing of the direction where the military's heading.
I don't think a lot of people saw it coming. For a while, they were actually trying to make it its very own primary MOS, and they even had done some changes where it went from a battalion level to regimental level. And a lot of the scout sniper community, when you grow up in it, you have to leave and then maybe come back. But for a while, they were trying to really stand it up. And unfortunately, leaders of the Marine Corps decided that they wanted to focus their efforts in other places, which it happens, as throughout the years, there's been a lot of changes, but I do foresee the scout sniper element coming back or being maybe adapted in a different way, hopefully, in a better way and used proportionately to the way that the Marine Corps should be using them.
Yes. And so were they constantly downsizing?
Yeah, I mean, the Marine Corps has always basically taken an approach of what is the best thing we can do for the future, right? And that's what is great about it, that we are very adaptive. Sometimes we have old equipment that we may do with, but we can keep changing and adapting, and that's something that they've been doing for years. And I know that we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle as to why this happened, but hopefully it comes back in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's way above our pay grade.
Yeah.
Why it was. And there's a lot of thought behind those decisions, hopefully. So what was your experience like as how about your first deployment? What was that like?
So my first deployment, I actually did that with 3-1, so 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, Lima Company, 2nd Platoon. And we went down to Helmand, Afghanistan. We were there in 2010, and we had a very long workup. When I got in, there was rumors that we were going to be going to Iraq. And initially, we would have been basically at the tail end of the Iraq war for the most part, at least the most kinetic time. But about halfway through our workup, we got shifted, and we were told we were going to be deploying to Afghanistan. So then our workup changed a little bit. We had about a year and a half of workup, which is about 6 months more than a workup normally is, right? So we ended up going to Afghanistan, and we were down in Helmand province. And I mean, it was hot. It was different. It was a complete kind of cultural shock for me, but also honestly established a brotherhood with this group of men that I keep in touch with today that I don't have, and I probably will never have with anyone else. And we took some loss of life, unfortunately, and it was a very long, I think, total of 7 to 8 months roughly. Um, Interesting. I mean, it was up and down, hot, cold. We would get into situations and then we would have to move to different patrol bases. A lot of different experiences. It was very interesting.
Yes, and I can see how absolutely that bonded you because nobody else will understand what you went through besides the people that were with you. Um, how about, so when you came back, what do you think that deployment, what is one of the biggest things that it changed in yourself?
I don't know. I think I grew up. I think I learned to appreciate life. I didn't. I do not keep in touch with anyone from my childhood. Maybe one friend, and that's about it. Because I feel like I finally came into myself when I got back from deployment. And after deployment, I think I just took life more seriously in a different way. I think that unfortunately now looking back, I realize that we've probably lost more people from that deployment here at home than we lost on deployment. Like thinking back of like friends that we had, we've lost more here, I think now, and I don't even want to think about the number because I've thought about that, and I don't want to tally up the names. But coming back, like life just seems more real. You appreciate things more. The silly things in life don't seem to matter anymore. And I feel like the more you're removed from deployment, that feeling starts to go away. And that's why it's important to remember that, you have to remember what's really important in life and not the little things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. How you mentioned the more further removed you are, it's like you forget. So how do you maintain that mindset? Or is there anything you do, like maybe go back and reflect on that, or how do you keep yourself in that mindset of, not to sweat the little things?
I read a lot and I listen to a lot of audible books. I try and make sure that at least 80% of my day while I am doing something, I'm consuming something. I don't want to just consume as far as just taking in, useless noise. I only listen to music when I'm working out, and even then, sometimes I will listen to an audible book or a podcast, or I try and listen to something that's going to bring me value in life. And I'm very specific with what I take in. So like I listen to very specific types of podcasts and audible books. So when I'm driving, that's my time for my audio book, and I play it at 1.25 speed because I try and take in as much as I can. And it's all very congruent to the lifestyle that I'm living. I'm doing my best to not waste time on this earth. I understand the issue of motivation comes and goes. So
Mm-hmm.
integral discipline that one has to live a life that aligns with your values has to come from within. Like you don't decide to have discipline. It has to come from the small little decisions that you make on a daily basis. So I do my best to try and make sure that I plan out my week, I plan out my day, I wake up with intention, and I have a kind of not a set schedule that I have to follow, but an idea of the way that my day is going to play out, because then I control the chaos. Because there's chaos that happens left and right, but if you can
Oh yeah.
control it because of the way that you live your life, that when things happen, you can react to it properly because of your values and the way that you live your life, that it allows your path to kind of still stay pretty aligned with where you're at and doesn't throw you too off left or right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, with that kind of being said, do you ever have information overload? Or what would you do if you just needed a break from, you're getting all this advice with the type of books and podcasts?
Yeah. So I have started implementing kind of my own rules of when I am going to shut that down, right? Because I do sometimes find myself now going way past my hours of like, I was supposed to stop at this time, right? So I'm an entrepreneur. I've started my own business. And obviously what comes with that is you need to do a lot more sometimes, as far as you have 24 hours in a day. You have this for your your regular 9 to 5 job. You have this time to create something for your business, this time for family. And I am doing better about setting some hard timelines of like, at this time, shutting down my computer. I'm no longer going to, be on social media consuming or creating or whatever. And I'm doing better about that because I know that it's very easy to convince yourself, and it's really just a lie of like, I can keep doing this. I'm fine. I need to get this done. And before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and then future you, tomorrow's you suffers because of that. And you don't think about that in the moment.
Yes, yeah, there's definitely a time. It's also good to have a stopping point where, you're set, or you have just time where you don't have to think about anything. You can use that time for either reflection or just, I don't know, maybe something funny, something like humorous to just give you a break.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. So kind of going back to, so what was the last 2 years of your time in the Marines? What did that look like?
So the last 2 years in the Marine Corps, I so when I got back from Afghanistan, I actually tried out for the sniper platoon. That's when I went to sniper school. Had a freaking blast. Probably one of the most proudest moments in my life. And then we went off on a MEU. We did the 11th MEU, so we went off to everything that the West Coast goes off to: Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, a bunch of different places. Got back, and I wanted to go back to Afghanistan, but I acted emotionally, and I ended up leaving the Marine Corps. And my last year in the Marine Corps, I was basically in charge of preparing all the guys that were going to be going off to sniper school, getting them ready so when they did go off to sniper school, they would actually pass and be able to come back to the platoon and be school trained snipers. And that was basically my last year in the Marine Corps. And then I was getting ready to get out. I did something called the VSEP. I don't know if it's around anymore, but it's basically voluntary early separation if you have some sort of employment lined up like that. And I ended up doing that. And I went to work for a company in San Francisco. That did not work out. And I was only there for 3 months. And then I ended up moving back to Chicago.
Okay. Would you mind going into that a little bit? So what was that program? Are these companies vetted, or did you have to show any proof of like you're about to be hired? Do they look into it, make sure it's legit?
Yeah, so they were drawing down a lot in 2000 and I think 12 or 13 it might have started. And basically, I don't think the company has to be vetted in any sort of way, but if you have some sort of legitimate employment that I'm sure they verify in some way, whether it's an offer letter or something like that, the Marine Corps will let you separate early. Now, I don't know if this is still around or not. I mean, this is freaking 10 years ago at this point. But I had employment, and it was kind of along the lines of what I wanted to do in the future. And I was able to get out roughly, I want to say almost a year early, because I had a 7-year contract. Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to check in to see if that's still around or not. Maybe not, with kind of how they're having trouble
probably not
retention right now. So when you got out, what was that first year like? You ended up moving back to Chicago. Why was that?
That first year I felt like an alien. I felt like I landed in this planet, and I did not fit in. I was the oddball. I was the Marine Corps does a very good job of creating this type of human being that they need. And I was very successful in my Marine Corps career as far as I was what they would call the platoon pit bull. So like if it needed to get done and they needed somebody that was going to get in people's asses to get it done, like it was me. And that's not something that that's not something that I say with pride, because like I know the reputation I had, and like I know the way people saw me, but it was what I kind of enjoyed in the time, and it's the role that I fit in. But because of that, when I got home, that created a lot of problems for me, because I couldn't leave it behind, and I still had this mentality of like, I don't know if it was responsibility or just things have to be a certain way, but it created a lot of problems for me. And I had a really hard time fitting in anywhere. And thankfully, I did meet some Marines that took me under their wing and kind of helped me out, helped me get employment, helped me get enrolled in college. But, you know, even then, like, it was not an easy transition. And the transition, honestly, from beginning to end, probably took, I don't know, 5 years. It's still happening, but it was not an easy transition.
No, absolutely. And I can tell it's still happening because you can look back on that and realize you have this self-awareness to realize that, you know, I'm not saying you were the problem, but you were contributing to the problem. So that's pretty cool. And then also, like you mentioned, you're still transitioning. I mean, there's no set time on when you're transitioned, if that even fully happens. So what was your next career move?
So after that, I ended up applying to all these positions, and I was working at a nonprofit where we actually helped veterans, helped National Guard units by helping veterans volunteer there. So that was interesting in and of itself. But at the same time, I was going to school. I was going to DePaul University. I was the president of the Veterans Union. I kept throwing more and more on my plate because, like, that was my way of, like, staying busy and not having to deal with my demons, right? And I was applying everywhere. I was applying for police departments, and that's what I wanted to do. And I ended up getting hired by a department, and then I did that, and that's basically what I was doing for, you know, the last almost like 9 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And you know, a lot of that's very, you know, marketable to veterans to join like a fire department, police department, because it has that same brotherhood type camaraderie. How do you feel about that? Was that accurate for you?
Yeah, very much so. However, it made it very easy for me to keep letting my issues stay prevalent without noticing that there were issues, because a lot of the problems that I carried with me, they didn't stand out and they weren't really noticeable as problems because it was very much socially acceptable in the circles that I was now a part of, right? So, like, instead of like being in I don't want to say normal, but being in a regular society where things that are issues tend to stand out and you can start addressing them and maybe understanding why this is an issue, those things weren't really able to really stand out for me because I was very much going into a very similar kind of environment, lifestyle. So, you know, the thing about the Marine Corps is that all the positive things that come from it, you can use them and keep using them in your life, right? But the negative things that come with the Marine Corps and your time in the Marine Corps, like, until you address those little things, like, it's very hard for the good to shine because the negative things sometimes outweigh the positive. And until you address all the problems that the Marine Corps has instilled in you, it's very hard for you to shine with all the positive stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's almost like a cultural thing to talk about the negative things, to complain. You know, you can get in those departments where it's just like, you know, everyone's complaining. It's what we do every day. It's really contagious. So I could see that. Yeah. So you were at the police department, and then, you know, you're kind of transitioning out. What was kind of like the final straw or reason for that?
So about halfway through my time in the department, like, I realized that I was not in a place. I was constantly drinking. I was smoking. I was 20 to 30 pounds overweight of where I wanted to be. I wasn't working out anymore. I was all in onto this job, right? And then I realized that, like, I'm in a very unhealthy place. And all of it blew up one day when my marriage fell apart. Literally, like, I got married because I thought I had to, which is a whole nother issue with veterans of like, oh, like, I have this person that gives me love. Like, it must be love. And then you don't even know that there's a whole nother world out there of people that you haven't met. So the first person, all of a sudden, especially for male infantrymen who are surrounded by nothing but other infantrymen, All of a sudden, this one person, I know I went off topic here, but it's part of it. This one
No.
person that like shows you love, you think that, well, this must be it. And then you give everything to that person. And then because maybe it's not the right match, eventually it all falls apart. And it did. It all fell apart. And I realized like I have a problem with drinking. I'm drinking way too much. I'm eating McDonald's literally every night on my drive home from work. Like it's my routine. I'm 30 pounds overweight. Something needs to change. And that's when I started reading. That's when I found Jordan Peterson's book. I found a lot of different people that I started listening to. Jocko. I read David Goggins. And I started just applying little things here and there. And then I was able to really come into myself when I got my health in line, right? Because like your fitness, your mental and physical fitness is like the foundation of everything. Like if you can get that in order, everything else in your life, you can live congruently with your values, your beliefs, what you want to do in life, your ambitions. But it starts with like just having a foundation, right? So that's what, for me, everything fell apart there. And then I started building up again based off of like a completely different life.
And that, I'm sure that wasn't a linear change. You know, I'm sure there was kind of ups and downs, you know, you're off the wagon, on the wagon type thing. What was kind of your North Star? What kept you moving in the right direction?
Yeah. So my North Star has been, for the past at least year and a half, my son, right? So like I have a son, his name is Oliver. And I want to be more than just who I am. And the only way I can do that and pass on the legacy is by creating systems now that in the future will be fruitful, right? So I don't think, like my short-term goals right now are not like 6 months from now. They're like 6 years from now. My long-term goals are 10 years from now. So I'm trying to think strategically. So when you think tactically, it's like in the moment, right? But when you think strategically, it's that long-term mission, right? So I'm trying to think strategically of everything and anything, and being able to like understand that it is not about the momentary pleasure or the momentary dopamine hit, and like being able to delay gratification. That is the most amazing thing you can do for yourself. Because when you delay gratification, when you have this overwhelming belief that you can succeed at anything you'll do because of the way that you have your values lined up in your life, things will fall into place just because of the work ethic that you've built, but also because you delay gratification. Therefore, you don't just seek that quick dopamine hit by watching Netflix, eating ice cream, sleeping and eating sugars, just doing things that are going to make you feel momentarily happy, but like in the long run are actually going to hurt you.
Yes, you have to define what true happiness is for you. And you'll think it's like, okay, buying the shoes, it's something in that moment. But when you realize, when you do that so many times, that's not what's new. That's stealing your happiness from your future self.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. And I love your North Star, because that's definitely, what keeps me going is seeing my kids and just wanting to be a good example for them and setting them up for a great future as well. But so how did you get into the coaching? Where did that come in?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I decided that I needed to create something for myself. I never in my life wanted to create something, and I wanted to have something that wasn't just mine, but it was something that created something into this world, to leave something behind, right? To leave something for my son, create something that was just different, right? So I started doing the coaching. I looked into the certification, started my company, and initially it was Ultimate Journey Fitness, and the name is still around, but it wasn't specifically designed for veterans. Then I did one of the most important things that anyone can do when they have their own business, is they have to hire a mentor. They have to buy someone. And when I say buy, I mean that you need to make an investment in someone that is going to be your business mentor, because there has to be the investment on your part and on their part. And now I have a business mentor. His name is Brian Mark. And because I have a business mentor, I've been able to actually develop my business, and I geared it specifically towards veterans. And the reason I did that is because that's what helped me. And veterans are different in that we think differently. We will act and react differently to how we're spoken to, and we need to be, how do I put it? Not necessarily tough love, but we also need to understand that we are more than capable of doing these things, and sometimes we forget that. So I specifically coach veterans right now. I do have clients that are not veterans, and that's perfectly okay. We bring them into the fold. We have a private group where it's just all of us in there. We're called the Savage Squad. Shout out to the Savage Squad. I think a couple of them might be watching right now. And we have a amazing group right here. Hold on, sorry, I got this. Alexa just went off over here. I'm sorry. Alexa, stop.
It happens.
Sorry. Yeah, 8:30 the baby music starts.
God.
So now I thankfully have a core group of veterans, and the business has grown a lot, and it's a beautiful place because we talk about not just fitness, not just nutrition, but it's about accountability. It's about community. It's about learning that like you're not alone on this new walk of life that you're on. You actually do have people that are doing it with you and on that path with you, right?
Yes. And I know that that's personal for you, because when you got out, you felt really isolated, or you almost isolated yourself from others. And so I can see how creating this community has, kind of not only helped you, but, help others who have that same pain point. And like you mentioned, a lot of veterans have that. So, so what do you see? Where do you see this? You mentioned you had that 6-year goal. Where do you see this going 6 years?
Yeah, so 6 years from now, I will have I will have a brick and mortar location where we actually do veteran outings, and the goal of it will be to where maybe 3 to 4 times a year we can actually host events where veterans come out, separate from society, no technology, just us together in a safe space, being able to go through different experiences, being able to maybe do meditations, do breath work, do group exercises, do bonding, do things that are going to challenge them as well, to actually step out of their comfort zone and speak about the things that they've been holding in for years and shining a little bit light on it. Just basically 3 to 4 kind of growth events a year, as well as still doing the coaching and growing that. And, eventually being able to bring down more coaches and have a larger community and have a larger platform. And that's the goal of it, just to be able to show veterans that like they're more than their service. Nothing hurts me more than seeing a veteran who defines himself by just his service, right? Because we are so much more than that. It is a huge part of what we are, and it is one of the most beautiful parts about what we have in our life. It's probably the best chapter in our book, right? But like we have to create more. We have to keep writing those chapters. That cannot be the high point in our life. It cannot.
Yeah, it's definitely a chapter that set the tone, or set a lot of things in stone that we'll carry out throughout our life. So that's a great point. So you've also gone viral on TikTok, and so you've gotten a lot of traction over there, and you've heard a lot of voices. I'm curious, what are kind of the loudest voices that you hear in your comment sections?
So it's interesting because it's honestly half and half, meaning that if I hear one voice, I hear something completely opposite on the other side, right? So four videos that have gone pretty viral or whatever. One of them was about how veterans don't come back into society. We were never a part of society. And with that video, the biggest response was that people have never thought about it that way. And honestly, they're right. Like you mentioned, like the veteran life, for me, it was my first chapter in my book. Like growing up, 1 to 18, that was like the preface of the book. Like chapter 1 for me was like the Marine Corps, right? And like we don't come back into society. We have to learn everything when we get here because we've never been a part of it. We were 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, not really like knowing how to do anything in society. We didn't know anything about, you know, taxes or anything like that, or insurance. Like, we were being cared for by our parents, most of us. So like, we don't come back into society. We have to learn how to become a part of this society, and we have to learn. It's not about like, I don't want to adapt. Like, you have to like, you do want to fit in, because you want to not just like survive, you want to thrive, right? And then another one of the videos was about the VA, and I know that's a hot topic, but you have to advocate for yourself. You can't think of the VA as the enemy and that nothing will ever work there, because when you say that and when you believe that, then it will become that. And unless we advocate for ourselves and make the appointments and go to the appointments and actually do the part that we have to do to get the benefits that we deserve, right, then that will never change, right? So those are some of the different voices, and it's been back and forth, you know, a lot of support. I've also received a lot of messages from a lot of people that sometimes are hard to read. Veterans talking about how, you know, that they were thinking about taking their life, and that they watched my video, and I don't even know how to take that in sometimes, because it's hard to read that, and I don't want the responsibility of whatever that is. But also, like, if a video of mine helped them, like, just start changing something about themselves, or at least like paying attention to the veteran TikTok videos. Apparently there's a whole vet TikTok hashtag. Then that's great. I want them to stay around and be here in life and understand, like, they do not understand the void that they would leave in this world if they were not here. They do not understand that. And if one of my videos has helped one person, that's all that I can ask for in life, you know?
And I think you can definitely guarantee that it has. I mean, all I did, how I found you, is I just typed in veteran. I think I just typed in veteran, and you were like the #1 video that came up. And that first video that you talked about how we were never a part of society, I was like, wow, it hooked me, because I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is how I feel. So I was like, I mean, and we connected instantly with, you know, similar platforms. So that is awesome. Also, I wanted to ask, with that kind of responsibility and, you know, getting all those different voices, how do you kind of separate that, or, you know, almost protect yourself with that?
Yeah, it's hard, because it can be draining for me at times, but I've had to understand that, and this is hard to say, but I really mean it, and I'm going to explain it a little bit. But I had a conversation with a friend last night that I hadn't seen in years, and we went out and we saw each other, we hung out, and like, he repeated to me something that I've known and I've thought about, but like, you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. And I tried to bring people into my program that they say that they want help and they want to change their life and they're ready for this and that, but then they don't reply, or, you know, they fail to make payment because, you know what, they're not really ready to invest in something, or they want something free. And that's the victim mentality. And I know it's hard to hear this, because a lot of veterans, like, they deserve help and they deserve a lot, but you also have to take yourself out of that victim mentality and understand that, like, you are above all that, because you're very capable, and because of everything that you've accomplished in the past, you can keep accomplishing more. And you have to take yourself out of that position of a victim. You have to take yourself out of that position of, like, I need to be helped. You can help yourself and people will be there, but you have to want to be helped. You have to want to change your life. And that's where I've had to draw some lines on a few people, because they make the initial connection, but then the follow through doesn't happen. Then they have a bad day, and then they decide to attack you for it, even though they don't realize that you're just trying to help them. And I do have to draw some lines. I've had to block some people. I've had to you know, make some rules of, if you really want help, you have to show that you have started to do some self-help, or start to make some changes on your own life, because you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped, right? Sorry, if you can hear the baby.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah, that kind of leads me to another question. It's like, what do people look for when they come to you? What do people look for in a coach? Because I think some people get it mixed up where they think, I want someone to hold me accountable, hold my hand through everything. And I know it's not possible.
So part of my program, we initially start off with 16-week commitment because we have to make sure that we have enough time to actually make a change, right? But we focus on fitness, nutrition, accountability, and community. And honestly, the most important part of it all is the community, because the fitness and the nutrition, especially because a lot of veterans have been there or have done that in a way, it's not hard for them to get back into it. But the accountability of them knowing that I'm going to be looking at their workouts, I'm going to adjust the workouts if needed, I'm going to be doing a check-in with them bi-weekly, and them knowing that that's there, that piece serves as like that team leader or that squad leader, like looking after you knowing that someone is not necessarily looking over your shoulder, but that they're with you right there on the journey. And then if you need help, you can reach out and ask for help. And then every Monday, we do Mindset Mondays. So we have a coaching call where we focus on a mindset thing. And some of that mindset stuff might be like being unrealistic and basically talking to them about you cannot set realistic dreams, that when you try and be realistic, you're going to downplay yourself and you should aim for more in life, that you should have absolutely amazing goals and dreams, because even if you aim for them, you'll be able to soar much higher than if you try to stay, in the real world, right? So every Thursday we have a Thriving Thursday call. So every Thursday we have a topic where we cover either sleep habits, daytime routines, the perfect week formula. So we do coaching calls on strategies and things that they can implement into their life, and they start applying that little by little. But the number one thing that for them, when they flip that switch and they realize that this is more than just a fitness program or nutrition, is when they actually start participating. So I have one client that I knew that he's making progress, but now that he has actually joined in on the Facebook group and he's posting and replying, and he showed up to the Mindset Monday, I know that for him, there was a switch that was flipped, that now he understands why he's doing this and what he has to do, right? So it just makes much more sense for him now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like something gets switched on and you question, you're like, what have I been doing with my life? Right? So we are coming up on time, and I know there's probably people listening to this interested in where they could find you, or maybe interested in finding out more from you. So what's the best place to do that at?
Well, I am on TikTok and Instagram at JP the Veteran Coach. So it's at JP the Veteran Coach. I'm also on Facebook under Juan Perez, or I believe you can find me on there as also Coach JP or JP the Veteran Coach. And just reach out to me, start a conversation. I'd be more than happy to talk to you, tell you all about the coaching program we have, and I'm here for anything you need. And thank you all for taking the time to watch. And thank you to you for having me on. It was a pleasure to be on here on Vet Chats. I really do appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you, JP, for coming on. And thanks, everyone, for joining the live. I saw we had a lot of people pop in and out. Always fun to see all the faces. But, yeah, thanks, JP. And we'll be in touch. I hope you have a great week.
So you too. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Bye.